New laws to restrict foreign care workers from bringing family members to the UK come into force later on.
And it's part of a wider government plan to reduce migration figures by 300,000, with the Home Secretary calling the measures robust and fair.
For more on this, we're joined by, well, he's a legend, TalkTV's chief political commentator, Peter Cardwell. A legend or a legend? How are you?
Hello, very well. How are you both?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Do you think it's very quickly, let's cut to the chase. This is big news for the royal family, isn't it?
Well, I've been following a lot of the conspiracy theories in regard to the Brazilian bum lift.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, she's sitting down, so we can't rule that out. Listen, there's lots going on with this photo. I think it's much more important than, I don't know, tackling extremism, things like that. So, yeah, we should be talking about this photo all morning. Definitely.
Good man.
Peter, let's talk about this extremism. What are the plans for the government, or the proposed plans, to widen the definition of extremism? And do you think it's right, as 3 former Home Secretaries have said, for the word extremism and the theory of extremism to be weaponised in such a way?
Well, it's hugely important, and it's all joking aside, it is an incredibly big thing politically for our society. This definition of extremism, really important. Michael Gove, the Communities Secretary, talking about it this week. We don't know exactly what it's going to be yet, but we think that it's going to encapsulate quite a lot of people who perhaps wouldn't have been called extremists previously. And as you say, 3 former Home Secretaries warning that this needs to be cross-party, it needs to be consensual. We need to know that everyone's on board with what an extremist actually is. And this idea that Michael Gove has been putting forward, including in a big interview with the Sunday Telegraph yesterday, in regard to saying that basically it's anyone who wants to undermine the institutions of liberal democracy. Well, that's raised a few alarm bells with people, because there are lots of people who want to undermine liberal democracy. It doesn't necessarily make them an extremist, to my mind anyway. But certainly when we look at the rise against, the huge rise of anti-Semitism, anti-Muslim hatred as well, which is a big thing, the fact that there was an attempt by the government to get a key figure within the Muslim community to be their sort of guru, their czar against anti-Muslim hate. He's pulled out of that job because of intimidation. Wow. Well, there's a lot going on in this space.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's one of those... We've talked quite a lot over the last few months. I always remember saying, when we started this show, if you talked about immigration 10 years ago, you'd have been labelled a racist. There's no doubt. I just want to nail what I think. I think there's no doubt that you should be able to protest. I've said that from day one. There's no doubt. On all sides, there are genuine protesters and people who have genuine concerns. But there are fanatics and there are extremists who seem to hijack these things. See that footage at the weekend? One lone man stood there with a banner saying Hamas are terrorists amongst a perfectly peaceful demonstration, got attacked and wrestled to the fore by the police. You can understand in that instance why people would go, well, where's the balance? How does that sit? He got punched, he got pushed. I'm not saying it doesn't happen on both sides, but there seems to me to be a need to address this.
Oh, definitely. And
have the conversation more than anything. Do you know what I mean?
And that particular incident that you mentioned, this was a man holding a sign saying Hamas is terrorist. To me, that's a factual statement.
It is.
That was pulled down. He was arrested because basically he was attacked. The police thought he was involved in an assault. They de-arrested him. The Metropolitan Police put out a statement about this, saying that they de-arrested him, that he wasn't in any way assaulting anybody. But it does show that these apparently peaceful protests, well, actually, there is some violent action there. The police are looking into who else was involved in that incident, and no charges have been brought. But nonetheless...
It's not going to go away,
It's not going to go away.
And I think for all the people just don't... People don't want to... I'm not saying Gove's right at all. I think we need to have the conversation, but there will be other groups that feel wronged and labels and all that. But we need to have the conversation in this country. I really do. Busy... Now, of course, Nicola and you will be very cynical, but I was very excited to read over the weekend. There is a plot to get rid of Dishy Rishi and bring back Boris Johnson. Peter Cardwell, come on, look at his face.
I'm just not sure I have the energy for this.
Yes, you do. You're being paid for it. Come on, crack on.
For the moment. Yeah, so Lady McAlpine, her name is Judy McAlpine, and she is the widow of a very rich man called Sir William McAlpine, not Alistair McAlpine, different McAlpine. Anyway, she is behind a scheme, which is a plot, essentially, from the Conservative Democratic Organisation to try to get rid of Rishi Sunak. She doesn't like him, and perhaps bring back Boris Johnson. The idea as well is that there could perhaps be a referendum on the European Convention on Human Rights and our membership of that. that the idea is that that would happen on the same day as an election, and that apparently, in the view of this organisation, the grouping of people, these plotters, would bring back the sort of Conservative momentum. Now, Labour are 27 points ahead in the most recent poll, most recent YouGov poll, so certainly there is a task there. But Boris Johnson remains a controversial character. He's not even an MP, but of course he was criticised for speaking to Nicola, the Venezuelan leader, who is not recognised, his regime is not recognised by the UK. But Boris Johnson's links to Vladimir Zelensky in Ukraine. He was over in Venezuela talking to Nicola about perhaps arming the Ukrainians, going a bit freelance. And yeah, apparently he did text David Cameron whilst he was on the plane saying, by the way, I'm going to Venezuela. But Foreign Office very much not happy about this. And a number of Conservatives I've been talking to say, you know, his going to Venezuela in the last few days, the plan really is just a bit caracas.
It's really interesting. McAlpine, is it? No, it's very good.
She just chose to ignore it.
She did.
No, I was determined to get this in. So, Lady McAlpine, wasn't it?
Yeah.
She told the Mail on Sunday yesterday, as far as I'm concerned, the Tory party is rotten to the core. We need new Conservative values, and Boris is the person to deliver that. He was PM 2 years ago.
Well, they're not new Conservative values.
No.
They bring back the old ones.
And one of the biggest criticisms of Boris Johnson is that he sidestepped traditional Tory values and went after the Green vote and all of that. That's what upset so many people.
Yeah, but listen, he was a vote winner, certainly 2019. You know, if you look at the perspective, let's take the perspective of Lady McAlpine for a moment. Someone she believes in politically got an 80 strong majority in 2019. The Conservatives are now in a position where they're looking at electoral oblivion. So desperate times, she will argue, call for desperate measures.
I didn't want to say this on air, but I got invited to something to do with this, and genuinely, and this is what I'm going to say to you. He and Truss, right, whatever you make of them, they want Rishi to take the absolute fall for this election.
Of course,
I'm convinced,
and
right?
Come back
they
rising from the ashes.
absolutely want him to be wiped out because that does everything that they want. Well, meanwhile, Keir Starmer, slightly overweight, according to Peter Mandelson, is 27 points in front.
I think he looks very trim.
Or 27 pounds in front. I don't know.
Thank you so much, Peter Cardwell, for joining us this morning.
Cheers,
as
Pete.
always.